After that night, something changed between them. Not softer. Not better. Just different. Lucian still insulted him sometimes, still carried that sharp tongue and unbearable pride, but the insults no longer felt careless. They felt restrained, as though he were constantly holding himself back from crossing an invisible line. And Elias noticed. More importantly, Lucian noticed that Elias no longer stayed silent. "You're starring again," Elias muttered one afternoon while writing reports at the desk. Lucian scoffed from his bed. "You wish. You've looked at me 5 times in 10 minutes. Maybe your face is annoying." Elias looked up flatly. "You should charge rent then." For a moment Lucian looked stunned. Then he laughed unexpectedly. A real laugh. Low and rough and strangely warm. It was the first genuine sound Elias had ever heard from him. And somehow, that unsettled him more than the insults ever did. The fights continued. But now they sounded less like hatred and more like habit. Lucian would provoke him intentionally during meals. Elias would snap back. The soldiers nearby often stared at them in disbelief. Because somehow, impossibly, Dr. Elias Reyes had become the only person in camp who could argue with Lucian Valdez without getting punched. "You're late," Lucian muttered one evening when Elias returned from a meeting. Elias frowned while removing his coat. "By 15 minutes. You didn't answer your phone." "I was busy." Lucian clicked his tongue in annoyance. "You're terrible at your job." "You're not my boyfriend," Elias replied tiredly. The room fell silent. Lucian froze. Elias froze too. Both immediately looked away afterward. Neither addressed it again. But that night, Lucian smoked 3 cigarettes by the window without saying a word. Despite everything, Elias was exhausted. Living beside Lucian felt like constantly standing near fire. Some days were calm, others burned him alive. So eventually, Elias found a way to escape. At the far end of the military camp, beyond the training grounds and old storage buildings, there was a secluded hill hidden behind pine trees. Few soldiers ever went there because the climb was steep and poorly lit at night. But Elias loved it immediately. The air there felt colder, cleaner, free. At night he would bring books and sit beneath the old rusted watchtower overlooking the distant city lights. For the first time all day he could breathe. No shouting. No military discipline. No Lucian. Just silence. At least, that was the plan. "You know that place is technically off limits." Elias nearly dropped his book. He turned sharply. A young trainee stood several feet away holding a flashlight loosely by his side. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a training jacket half-zipped from the cold. Unlike most people in camp, his expression looked relaxed. Amused even. "I didn't mean to scare you, Doc," the trainee said quickly. Elias exhaled slowly. "You succeeded anyway." The trainee smiled sheepishly. "Sorry." There was an awkward pause before he extended his hand. "Daniel Navarro." Elias shook it carefully. "Elias Reyes." "I know who you are," Daniel admitted. "Everyone does." "That sounds concerning." Daniel laughed softly. "Only because you're surviving Lucian longer than expected." Elias groaned. "Please don't remind me." That made Daniel laugh harder. And somehow, the conversation became easy after that. It started small. Simple greetings whenever they crossed paths. Then longer conversations beneath the watchtower at night. Daniel often brought coffee stolen from the kitchen. Elias brought books. Some nights they talked about nothing important at all. Other nights became unexpectedly personal. "My mother wanted me to become a doctor," Daniel confessed one evening while staring at the stars. "What happened?" "I disappointed her." Elias looked at him carefully. "You joined the military." Daniel smiled faintly. "Yeah." For a while neither spoke. Then Daniel glanced sideways at him. "What about you? What about me? Why therapy?" Elias stayed quiet for several seconds. Finally he answered honestly. "Because I know what it feels like to need someone and not have them." Daniel's expression softened. The wind between them suddenly felt gentler. And for the first time in weeks, Elias smiled without forcing it. Meanwhile, Lucian was becoming increasingly unbearable. At first he only noticed the late returns. "You smell like outside," he muttered suspiciously one night. "I was outside." "No kidding." Another night. "Where were you?" "Reading." "With who?" Elias blinked slowly. "Why do you sound like an angry wife?" Lucian glared at him so intensely that Elias nearly laughed. But underneath the irritation, something else lingered. Something unfamiliar. Something restless. Lucian hated it. He hated noticing when Elias wasn't in the room. Hated the strange emptiness whenever their nightly arguments didn't happen. Hated how quiet the room felt without him there. Worst of all, he hated how Elias smiled differently around someone else. Because eventually Lucian found out. It happened accidentally. Lucian had gone out late after training, already irritated from a brutal disciplinary session. As he walked past the hill near the watchtower, he heard laughter. Elias' laughter. Lucian stopped immediately. Hidden behind the trees, he watched silently. Elias sat beside a trainee beneath the dim light of a lantern, smiling while listening to him talk. Smiling. Actually smiling. Not the tired polite smile Elias gave everyone else. Not the sarcastic smile reserved for Lucian. This one looked warm. Comfortable. Close. Lucian's jaw tightened. The trainee handed Elias a cup of coffee. Their shoulders brushed. And suddenly, something ugly exploded inside Lucian's chest. The room door slammed violently against the wall. Elias barely had time to react before Lucian grabbed his wrist harshly. "What the hell, Lucian? Come here." His grip hurt. "Let go of me." But Lucian dragged him across the hallway anyway, fury radiating from every movement. Soldiers nearby immediately looked away. Nobody dared interfere. The moment they entered the room, Lucian shoved the door shut and pinned Elias against the wall. "Hard." Elias gasped sharply. Lucian's face was terrifyingly close. "What exactly are you doing with him?" Lucian demanded. Elias stared at him in shock. "What?" "That trainee." Lucian's grip tightened around his wrists. "You sneak out every night to meet him." Elias struggled. "You're hurting me." "Are you sleeping with him?" The accusation hit like ice water. Elias froze. Lucian's breathing was uneven now, angry, possessive, unstable. "Answer me." "You're insane." Lucian laughed bitterly. "Oh, now I'm insane. You dragged me here like an animal. You think I don't see the way he looks at you?" "And what if he does?" Elias snapped. Silence. A dangerous silence. Lucian's eyes darkened instantly. Then came the words Elias wished he never heard. "So it's true," Lucian said coldly, "you really are into men." Elias' face drained of color. Lucian continued, voice crueler now. "Pathetic." Elias shoved against his chest desperately. "Stop it." "What did I offend you?" "Stop talking." "You let him touch you like that." Tears of humiliation burned Elias' eyes before he could stop them. "Please." The moment Lucian saw him cry, everything shattered. The anger. The rage. The jealousy. Gone. Lucian stared at him as if waking from a nightmare. Elias' shoulders trembled beneath his grip. And suddenly Lucian realized. He had become exactly the kind of person Elias hated. His hands loosened immediately. "Elias." Elias pushed him away hard. This time Lucian let him. "You don't get to humiliate me just because you're angry," Elias whispered shakily. Lucian stood frozen. Unable to speak. Unable to explain why seeing Elias beside someone else made him feel like he was being torn apart alive. And for the first time in years, Lucian felt afraid. Not of losing a fight. Not of punishment. But of losing one person who had actually stayed.